Hi, Dancing Bear fans. This is Robin, your wire wrapping expert. And we're going to be going over our Bead Shop Pop 2021 make and take for wire wrapping. We have two different options. I'm going to be showing you the bangle bracelet specifically, but the method is the same for the earrings as well. And this is going to be with chip beads. And we're going to go over kind of how to pick the chip beads a little bit and also kind of how to fit the bracelet because you want to do a test fit before you wire wrap so that if you need to shrink it down to your smaller wrist, you don't put too many beads on it. So we're going to show you how to do that and how to get your wire wrap going and go through that project for you so you can watch it as many times as you want if you need a little refresher on how to do wire wrapping and, as for reference. Hi, now we're just hands for this portion of the video. I have here the kit comes for the bracelet with 45 inches of wire. For the earrings, it comes with a 2-yard piece that you'll need to cut in half because each earring takes a yard. But what we're going to do first, like I said in the intro, if you have a smaller wrist, you're going to want to like squish this down when you put it on. And when it comes to you, it's going to be perfectly round and it sits about that big. So you will probably want to squish it down on your wrist. And I'm going to go ahead and do that now on mine. And you're actually going to kind of bend the metal a little bit to make it sort of stay. So it'll be like kind of adjusted to your wrist a bit. So I'm kind of trying to make it a little bit more oval so that when I wear it, it'll sit kind of nicely there. So I'm getting that adjusted, and as you can see, I probably only really want to do like sort of the top half. So it's like I really only want to do maybe 3 inches of beads there so that I can have it sit closely on my wrist. If you wanted to wear it looser, like a bigger, more round bangle bracelet, you could do that too. But I'm just going to want to bead the top half here. So it's important to think of that and not just go beading away and then have it not fit properly. Can't say I haven't ever done that before though. But we're going to start, you want a little tail to hold on to, and then you're going to make some nice tight wraps with this 26 gauge wire that we provided. And you don't want to hold out here in the distance when you're working with the wire. You want to hold nice and tight, because if you hold out here in the distance, this whole section of wire is going to harden as you wrap. And it'll make it brittle and you run the risk of breaking your wire. So you want to push down kind of right on top of where you want your coils to go so that they are nice and tight. And then I'm going to kind of pinch this end in. And once I get some of my beads on here, I can trim this end off and tuck it in with my pliers. Although I think I forgot to grab a pair of wire cutters, so we'll maybe trim that later. But I've got my wire now attached onto my bracelet, and I wanted to show you with my chips. Chips can be pretty random sometimes, so I'm going to grab a handful off, and we just want to give them a look. And this strand does have some larger pieces in it, and sometimes the shapes can be a little funny, so I'm just going to take a look and see if anything has like a really odd shape. So this one, where the hole is oriented, I don't know, that one's probably going to sit funny because the way it's drilled is kind of sideways and it's an odd piece. So I'm going to set that one aside. But the rest of these actually look pretty good. I don't see anything wrong with them. Sometimes the hole is like really super close to the edge, and you wouldn't want to use it when the hole is that close to the edge because it's going to be more likely that you could break it off while you're wearing it or while you're working on it. So these all look pretty good. I don't see any huge problems with those. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the other end of my wire and slip these guys on here. And this will just take me a few minutes, and this is probably 2 inches or so, maybe 3 inches worth of chip beads, just, from pulling them off the strand. But I just like to have some of them threaded up on the wire before I begin to work, so I'm not stopping after every wrap to add the beads on. Let's see. Okay, I think that's going to be plenty. Might end up taking some off later, but I'm just going to put like a little twist here at the end to keep the beads from falling off. I'm going to pull open my wire a bit and kind of shake some beads down towards where I'm working on the bracelet. I want to be careful pulling on this because it's looped off of the spool it came off of. If you pull on it too much, you might actually pull one of those loops into a kink, and you don't want to kink your wire. But what I'm going to do is kind of twist the bead so it's standing upright against the wire, like against the base, and then pull the wire down tight around and get my wrap out of there so you can see I'm like placing it so that it sits nice and upright. And then I'm going to, when I go around to make another coil, kind of push it under. And that actually makes this sit just a little bit tighter by pushing that wire under. And then I'm going to go ahead and you do have to kind of manage the rest of your wire and pull it through out of the way gently so that you're not, like I said, putting kinks into it. I'm going to make another wrap. I think that will get me to the end of this bead. So now I'm a little bit out past the end of this bead that I just added. And I can go ahead and let me just manage the tail on here. So on the earrings, because there's actually an opening in the earrings where the little stud and the hinge is, you don't have to worry about threading stuff through. You just kind of have to push your tail of your wire through where the opening is. But on this one, because it's a solid hoop, and I'm just lifting up the end and shaking down another bead. Kind of pulled that off camera, so I wanted to explain. And I'm going to kind of look at the orientation of this bead and pick which way I want to pinch it in place, and I kind of want it standing upright. And I'm going to kind of twist the bead so that it's sitting, and I'm basically like kinking the wire right here by pushing that bead in place firmly and then pulling down firmly and wrapping around. I'm going to push under the bead here and pull my excess through. And then do that again. And like it says in the instructions, 2 to 3 wraps, just enough to make it nice and secure and get you out past the end of the bead so that you can add another bead. So there is a couple beads added. And see, this is where I was talking about not pulling a kink. It's getting kind of tight closed because I was pulling on it. And we just don't want to continue to pull on it when it does that, because you will make a little tight notch in your wire. And then again, pulling up the wire to shake the bead down. And let's see, I think I want this guy oriented down and lengthwise like that. Yeah. So he's going to kind of stand. I want him standing upright. Make sure he's nice and tight. Firm in there as best we can. These are not going to be completely unmoving because they're random shapes. So there's going to be a little wiggle, but you want to just try to get them as tight as you can as you're working on them. Okay, and grab and shake another bead down here. Alrighty. So you can do this with just about any bead. If you wanted to do fire polish or like crystals or something, you can do that too. It's just going to be more regular looking. These are going to be a little bit more random because the chips are in a regular shape. And then actually sometimes from one chip strand to the next, like the character of the chips will be different. I've noticed in particular, every time I've ever seen a strand of peridot chips, they're like really tiny. And they tend to be kind of like rounded edges. Some of the stones will have sharper edges, and it just has to do with the actual structure of the stone and how much they're tumbled when they're being made. But some of them are more square, and some of them have more rounded edges. And let me just get another bead down. my working end of my wire here is tangling. Alrighty, let me get another one worked in here. So this is going to be really fun to do, and this would be really neat as like a stacker too, because you've just got this nice thin line of these kind of jagged edges. Looks pretty neat. It'd be fun to do as a stacker, do different like gemstones for healing, or just your favorite color combinations, or maybe like birthstones, like if you had like, oh, you know, your brother's birthday and your mother's birthday, you can make like something for, you know, family for your different kids' birthdays and have like birthstone ones. That'd be really fun. We do also have some chip bracelets available that have the healing stones mixed together, where you could just buy one strand and then do chakra. That's the word I wanted. The chakra stone ones already all together on a chip bracelet, and that would be enough to do these projects, because it takes about 3 inches to do this, and then the earrings are also about that amount. So a bracelet does, the little stretchy bracelets we have will be enough to do this project. Or you can get any of our chip strands have nice long lengths, and you could do plenty of projects with that. Come on, drop down. Okay, so I kind of fast forwarded there through adding some of my stones, and you could see I sort of switched them around and positioned them a little bit so that they have a nice standing presence and lay out nicely. But now I've got to the other end where I want to end my beadwork, and I need to wrap off this end in a coil a little bit, and then we're going to go back through to kind of give it a little texture. But I want to pull off these spare beads just so they're not dangling in my way. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that here. I'm just going to back those guys off. So this was really about 2.5 inches, like as it sits on the strand of beads. Just so you know, so if you got that, you know, little tail end of a strand of chips left from some other project and you want to use them up. Sorry, it's one of those things where I have glasses and sometimes I pull things closer to my face when I'm trying to do detailed work, so I pull it off camera a little bit when I'm looking at things. But I am just, again, holding really close to the base and wrapping directly around the base and getting a nice firm, tight, packed together coil, because we like to have a nice firm coil at the end of this kind of work to make it stick well. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually wrap back through the beads, and I'm going to go in between each bead just to give it a bit of extra texture, kind of like a long looping thing. And I'm just going to kind of, sometimes you got to wiggle like when you're flossing your teeth, because we packed these on here a little tight. So I'm just kind of wiggling it down through the beads as I go, and just wrapping down around between each bead, and it kind of just gives it a nice little interesting texture more than just the plain wrap in one direction. If you really wanted to bust these out fast and skip this step, you're more than welcome to. You could just cut this end off and like I'm going to do on this end when I get back to it, trim it off and just press it down. So this is just more of an appearances thing. It's not actually structurally necessary. And I'm not paying attention to my end, and it's dangling on me here. Where I had it kinked before is catching. I'm just going to nip it off because I don't need it, and it's what's causing my wire to catch. Okay. As you can see, I'm just doing this pretty quickly. We're just doing a loose wrap between the stones. So now I'm back to my end here. I'm just going to wrap this little tail end out a little further and nip this tail end off from where we started, because I didn't do that when I first started because I didn't have the cutters handy. And now I'm just going to use my chain nose pliers, and I'm kind of just smoothing around with the plier a little bit to tuck that end in. And then I'm just going to make a few wraps. Got this tangled, it is catching. And I'm just going to make a few wraps back here. To secure this end and go in and nip with the wire nice and close and smooth over the end, and there we have the beaded part of my bangle all done. So I'm just going to slip. So this is the exact same technique for doing the earrings, and on the earrings, and of course I didn't bring a pair in here, but on the earrings I recommend starting from the hinge side and going towards the stud that actually goes into your ear and then working back that way. And this would be really fun to do a whole bunch of these and stack them all together. But that's what it looks like on, and it just has this really cool spiky texture. And it'd be so much fun to have a whole stack of these on with different gems. And like I said, you could totally do birthstones or you know, whatever meanings are special to you with gemstones. And we have a large collection of chips available. The kits are available where it's just the base piece, so either the bracelet or the earring, and the wire, and they're $3. You can pick those up and make yourself some goodies. So we went and grabbed the earrings to show you, and I just want to show you what I mean by the hinge end versus the stud end. This is one that hasn't been worked on yet. So here's the hinge, and here's the actual stud part that goes through your ear. And when I worked on these, I actually started right here where the hinge is soldered to the tube piece. So I worked from right here around to right here, did my little securing wraps here, and then worked back this way. So you can see that on this guy. So he started here, worked this way, did a few securing wraps, and then worked back this way with that texture wrapping that I did. So that's basically same technique on the earrings, just on an earring instead of a bangle. And then as I was sitting here looking at this, I noticed that it wasn't perfectly even, and because this is on a round base, if you notice that like it's a little closer to this side than this side, you can kind of push a little bit like with your fingernails and sort of zhuzh it around just a tiny bit if you notice that it's like sitting a little crooked on one side, closer to one side to the other, and you want to change it. So that is a little bit flexible there. So I think that is it. Hi, so now that we've completed our video, we just wanted to show you the finished project. Here is the bracelet that we made, demoed for you, all done up. And again, it's kind of got a really cool profile that you're going to see while you're wearing it all the time, and it would look really awesome like with 5 or 6 of these stacked together. It's like I need to play and make more. And then this is the earring, so it also has that really neat profile, and that's how you get when you're placing those beads as you're wrapping, it gives you that nice neat front profile of the edges of those beads, and that is the earring with the hinge clasp. And so those are our completed projects, and thank you for watching our video and coming to see us for the hop. Bye-bye.